and so we'll go ahead and get started. First of all, thank you for coming out, braving the cold. This is our third meeting of such. We had one the Saturday morning before Christmas break, had one last night, and had one tonight. It is being streamed on our student broadcast group led by Coach Swope, Longhorn Media or Longhorn TV, whatever, something like that. It's also James Schaefer. Appreciate both these guys. James has it on Facebook Live under Inola Proud. So I'm not real techie, but I think that this will be available to watch in the future. And both these guys were here that Saturday morning and last night. And so if you have any questions or if you feel like I skipped over something, it may be on those other things. Before you do that, please feel free to call, email, visit me in the office. The only thing I'll ask you in the office is to call and set up a time to make sure that I'm there. I don't want you to waste a trip up there if I'm not there. But Dr. Harris, same way, is available. But anyway, the whole purpose of this is to make sure that everybody gets the decision or gets the information that they need to make on an individual or family basis to make the decision as a family what you feel like you should do. At no point is there pressure from should be anybody to vote yes or to vote no. That's a very personal decision that you guys will make on your own. I just want to be able to answer any questions to get you to that point. And if you feel pressured in anything other than that, stop me and I had a couple notes given to me last night. One is I talked way too much last night, I was told. So I'm going to try to keep that a little bit shorter. I don't want that to be at information's expense. So if I need to expand on something, please let us do that. But I was told to shut up and let people talk and ask questions, so I'm going to try to do that. The other thing that I was told was they can hear me, I've got a mic, but they can't hear some of the questions. So please help me remember if a question is asked from the audience, my plan is to repeat it so the people on these two sites can hear that, and then I will answer the question. If I go into answering the question, if somebody will say, if you'll repeat the question. So those are the two notes that I got, to let you guys talk more, me less, and to repeat it in the microphone. So with that being said, again, my name is Jeff Fenner, superintendent. This is my second year as superintendent. Previous to that, 2 years, I was the assistant superintendent to Dr. Kent Holbrook, who was here for I think 17 years. Prior to that, I was the middle school principal for 17 years. Prior to that, coached football, baseball, basketball, a little bit of everything, taught algebra, algebra 2, and junior high math, and a few years of science. So anyway, very proud of the fact that came back in 1999 and have been part of the faculty since then. I know it was all I've ever known. 1981, I started at the daycare now in the kindergarten, Miss Martin, and so been here ever since 1981, and in some form or fashion, sans the 4 years at Tahlequah, and I spent 1 year teaching and coaching at Sperry. But anyway, that's not anything other than something that I'm very proud of. This is home. This is what I'm vested in, and I have what I consider my New York Yankee job, my dream job as superintendent, something I've wanted to do for a long time. Very, very blessed to have a great faculty, a great community, a great school board. You've got, as community members, you have an incredible school board, and can't thank them enough for everything that they do. And for you guys that don't know, school board is a very good paying job. They make a lot of money to do that, right around $0. It's all out of the goodness of their heart. So you got 5 Inola grads on there who have had kids going through here, and just great people with great motives, and so very blessed. So all of that to say, obviously a week from today now, is our big bond vote. The bond, I want to try to just address some questions that I've been asked or have been out there, and to go from there. This bond, I took to the school board and it was approved as a proposition in the October board meeting. From there, we've tried to go from things to get it down to more of a specifics. So we do have an outstanding bond that the community voted in February of 23. Some of those things that were on there were mainly general items. There was the baseball practice facility, there was some buses, there was some of those things. I was asked, why are we voting for those things again? The answer is we're not. That was voted on in 2023. The vote that you will go to the polls for next week has 3 items and 3 items only. Okay. First item is an upper elementary school. That is the great majority of this project. Couple renderings on both sides there of the upper elementary. That will be, if you're familiar with Inola and familiar with this campus, where Mitchell Field was, right to the west of it, the football field, where the concession stand is on Mitchell Field, is pretty much where this is looking to go. It would house 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. 5th grade currently is on the east side of town, the east side of tracks. They are in the middle school, which with is 6th, 7th, 8th, and which is the same campus as high school. That would allow us to bring the 5th grade back over where a lot of people feel like need to be, feel like they should have never left. Why did they leave? Space and space only. There was more space over there to accommodate them. That is one of the domino effects that would potentially happen if this construction gets built, is that 5th grade would move over. What we call the 5th grade hallway, or the 5th grade center, would become the 6th grade, which would free up the middle school for just 7th and 8th grade. By freeing that up, that frees up the high school. There's several classes that are shared for middle school, high school, so that would be each group. So even though this is an upper elementary construction, it would benefit students through the 12th grade as far as space. There's 2 main reasons for what we feel like is a need of the elementary. Anytime we talk about tax increase, and especially one that is more than we're used to, we haven't had a tax increase in many, many years. Even though the price of everything has gone up, we haven't had that, and so we're to the point where we feel like there is a need. The building that you're in currently is a little over 60 years old. Those are the facts that, and I can give you what I feel like is a lot of examples of the reasoning that the building in and of itself is in need of serious repair, and the money that's going into it, we feel like would be better invested in a new building. This building would not be tore down. We're not to the place where we can do that at this time. Obviously, even if it's past the construction, there will still be school going on in this building until it's constructed. And then again, we're talking about 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And so the pre-K, kindergarten, and 1st grade would still stay housed here. The building, the early childhood wing, which was constructed, I believe, in 2003, right down here with 12 classrooms. When it was built in mind of having 4 pre-K classrooms, 4 kindergarten classrooms, and 4 1st grade classrooms, which that's a pretty nice hallway. Each 2 classes share a restroom, and so it's nice. There's no reason to not have school in that building, even though we call it the new wing. It's about 20 years old, but it's a nice facility. Those 12 classrooms, the plan would be to make 6 pre-Ks out of that and 6 kindergarten classrooms. This hallway that we're in currently, that's part of the money, is renovation for this hallway, renovating basically this whole hallway, this library, and renovating at least 6 classrooms to make them nice classrooms, and this would become the media center / 1st grade hallway, and then again, second, third, fourth, fifth would be the new build. There's a lot of this stuff that would continue to be in use, such as the gym. I apologize if we're cramped in here. When we had originally scheduled this, we had scheduled it for the gym, only to quickly find out little dribblers are practicing there every night. So we said, okay, we'll move it to the cafeteria, only to very quickly find out little dribblers practicing in there every night. So we have moved in here. We knew it wouldn't be, the boardroom would probably not be big enough to accommodate this. So that's why we're in the elementary, because of those things being used. In addition to, you know, there was a little bit of question about how many classrooms are in this. To me, it's a tough question because we have taken conference rooms, we've taken closets, we've taken offices, and we have school. In addition to those classrooms, we do have 2 modular buildings just on the north side of the cafeteria. One problem with that is the price tag that comes with that each month, which is almost $2,500 a month to have that. That comes out of the general fund, and I'll get into general and building and sinking fund in a minute. But we just feel like the building is old, has ran its course, and we need updated classrooms, and we just need physical classrooms. That's on a normal where we're at to this point. Now, some things, and this isn't a pressure statement, these are what I believe are facts. The facts are there are 2 new housing additions going in our district, right? One right off, people call it 590. To me, it's Highway 33 right over here, and then one out by Ruby on 412. The one here, I believe, is 136 classrooms. I believe the one out by Ruby is about 158 to 160, huh? What did I say? If you were here last night, you heard it again. So we may be moving into, so I've done this 3 times, and I think all 3 times I've said the same thing. 160 houses-ish, 136 houses for a total of about 300 houses. As school people, the studies show that you need to accommodate or need a plan for about 1.5 students per rooftop. So and that number can vary. There's no way that I'm going to guarantee that. Obviously that can be changed, some houses, but if you have 300 rooftops, you're talking about 450 to 500 students on the average. Right now, we have almost 1,400 students on campus. If you brought in 500 students to that, you know, that's more than 1/3 of the students. And we feel like we are busting at the seams as is. And so those are some of the reasons that we feel like the construction of an upper elementary is needed. Part 2 of the bond, over at the high school, middle school campus, what we call the student parking lot. It's the parking lot that obviously the students park during the day. If you go to a volleyball or football or basketball game, pretty much any event at school, you're probably parking in that thing, and that's that same parking lot we're talking about. This is my opinion, but I think I could argue with anybody that parking lot is in need of serious repair. We've got potholes that we're about to lose small children, I think, on automobiles, but it is in need of repair. Something that makes me cringe is anytime with the weather, potentially like it could be this weekend, we don't clear that off very often because of the damage that it does to that. We can clear this parking lot off with no problem. It doesn't do any damage because it's a nice surface. Over there, we create a big problem. And so, but anyway, the parking lot has about $800,000 designated to that, and then $750 to $800, and then in the main gym, what we call the main gym, and that gym is almost 40 years old. I think it was the class of '88. So fall of '87 was the first basketball team to play there. The class of '87 actually graduated there, and then the class of '88 started school there. That gym is, like I said, almost 40 years old, but it does not have air conditioning. And a lot of people don't think that's a big deal until you go to a volleyball game in August and September. Volleyball coaches, Coach Swope, they actually start practice on July 15th. That gym in July and August will warm you up pretty quick. Is air conditioning? I mean, I would argue that it is a need. I believe Coach Swope said that they haven't played in a gym outside of our own in about 10 years that's not air conditioned. I'll give you an opinion. I don't think it's right to our kids to play the only games of the year non-air conditioned in our own gym. I don't think it's fair. As an Inola person, I don't think it's fair to our constituents, our fans, to ask them to sit in a gym of 110 to watch a volleyball game. My opinion, and I'll leave it at that. So those are the only 3 projects on this bond for next week. Again, in the essence of trying to be shorter and making my wife happier, I'm going to, again, I don't want to get into and go too far or too fast and cut corners, but there are some things that physically, the reasons of not being able to add 4 classrooms. That's kind of where we've been for the last 20 years is our constructions and our builds have been 4 to 6 or 8 classrooms at a time. And we built that in 2003. The next construction was 2014, and that was 4 classrooms to the middle school on the east side and some classrooms in the computer lab. And so this is, in our opinion, and we can get into this is not a 4 or 6 or 8 classroom need. This is a much bigger need than that. Again, not just because of the age, but with the potential of rooftops being built. Not only that, and I'll get into the port of Inola, south of town, for people that's been around here a long time, which is a Black Fox area that was given to PSO, which was given / sold to the port to develop. And so, it's where Sofidel's at currently. It's where I believe, opinion, that there'll be new businesses going in the very near future. And again, I'm trying to preface everything with what I believe, just to inform you as far as opinions. I can't guarantee that there'll be a business go in there, but I can guarantee that I believe that there will be. So, the modular buildings, to get into a little bit of this, if this bond does not pass, we're going to have school January 15th. We're going to have school next year. We're going to have school from here on out. We're going to do the best we can, and we're going to work. And again, I'm very blessed to have faculty that's going to not gripe about it and going to do what we need to do. And so I'm not going to sit here and say if we do this, then the world ends or this falls, the sky's falling. We're going to have school, and we're going to do it at a high level in what we believe. So wanted to get into a little bit. If you got any questions, and Mr. Schaefer gave me a pointer, so I feel really official and important. Sinking fund, I'm going to get into that. Building fund, general fund. There's 3 funds that are state law in the Constitution that every school shall get at least 35 meals. If you have been around for a while, everybody know what a meal is?
No.
Okay. A meal is you have $1, you have a dime, you have a penny. $1 is 100, dime is 10 pennies, penny. A meal, 10 meals equals 1 penny. So a meal is 1/10 of a penny. Okay. Apparently, anybody remember when they used to have meals? I was told that there used to be the coin of a meal, and that's how they got rid of that. But anyway, a meal is 1/1000th of a dollar. Okay. So schools get 35 meals, and part of that 35 meals, at least 35 meals, part of that goes to the general fund, part of that goes to the building fund, part of that goes to the sinking fund. I'm going to try to be brief. A general fund, for the school people, general fund, that is the fund that is our normal day-to-day month-to-month operations. Basically, you can consider it, if it's a reoccurring cost, whether it's salary, whether it's bills, whatever recurring cost comes out of the general fund. The state of Oklahoma does a very good job when they developed the general fund. It is very equitable across the state. It's very equitable from district to district. We have what we call a weighted ADM, where each child that comes to school that's enrolled here, it's called weighted ADM. It's not just per the number of students. Different grades, so different ages are valued at different weights. Categories, socioeconomically challenged, special ed, OTPT, autism, all these things go into giving a count, and each school comes up with their weighted ADM. Based on their weighted ADM is how the general fund is dispersed, and again, that's equitable. Category number 2 is building fund. Building fund is kind of a little bit of a misleading term because it's not what you necessarily build. The easiest way to think about building fund is repairs. Normal repairs. Air conditioner goes down, you get a new HVAC, comes out of building fund. Any repairs, small construction is out of the building fund. The state of Oklahoma is not quite as good being equitable, even though they are getting much better. The building fund is driven strongly by the number of basically manufacturers, businesses that you have in town, that you have in your district. So, 2 or 3 years ago, I know they didn't have a lot of locally created revenue compared to other districts that have big income on that part. So the state recognized that. A couple years ago, they came up with what they call redbud allocation. Redbud allocation is meant to equalize that a little bit. Normally we get that right before Christmas. We haven't got it yet. I'm expecting it any day, hopefully. And if that comes in, and it will come in this year, it's state law. This is the second year that it becomes state law, and so we will get it at some point this month, hopefully. And that is to create a more equitable balance in the building fund. Now, sinking fund is the third fund. Sinking fund is one that is locally driven, community by community, district by district. There is great variation in the sinking fund. Sinking fund is the fund that any of the money the bond goes into and pay for the bond comes out of. There's a huge discrepancy, and some of these are showing that. This one here, sinking fund millage rate comparison for FY 24-25. The bonding company, I don't know, have any idea why they chose some of these schools to compare to. Obviously some of them, there's Inola, there's Verdigris, Sequoia, Bonita, Little Kansas, Adair. Some of them make a lot of sense. I have no idea why Medill was added on there, Roland, but take it for what it's worth. I actually did something. I pulled up 50 schools that we either play in extracurricular activities or within 50 miles of us. The 50 of those schools, of those 50, again, I believe this to be a fact, Inola was the second lowest. Our current millage rate is 11.74. It's second only to OK, which is 6.08. About a year ago, OK had a bond to build a new gym. It failed. Had it passed, they would have passed us, and we would have been the lowest, but since they didn't, they remain the lowest, as far as I know, in the state, or at least on this side of the state. We're at 11.74. This chart shows where we've been in 2003 and 4 when we built this east wall, or east wing. Our millage rate was 29. Whenever you don't increase or spend all that you can out of your bond, it goes down, and that's why it goes down. We had construction here that, like we talked about, the 4 classrooms in the middle school, and then we're at 11.74. If this bond, our millage will be single digits. Okay, an opinion alert, tune me out if you don't want to hear it. Living down that low is not good for the district. To live in the low, I believe you've got to find somewhere, and that's where the discrepancy in this room would come into play. This red line is not an ideal target. This red line is simply the 22-year average of Inola. The last 22 years, the average was 18.25. You can see in these years how many years we were above that line, how many years we were below that line. Okay. If this bond is passed, and we're going to get into what I call worst case scenario. Again, it's a fact, worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, the bond, I believe the millage rate would go to 27.98 is the worst case scenario, which, you know, is less than it was in 2003, considerably more than it is. When we get into worst case scenario, I want to talk a little bit about that, why that is. There's something called net assessed value. As a school district, our net assessed value, our NAV, is $60 million. Over the last 20 to 25 years, the average growth of that is 3 to 5%. So if we were $60 million last year, I think it's safe to say we'd be real close to 62 million this year, about 65 million next year, 68, and you'll see that it would go up to around 3 to 5% each year. Okay. The reason I'm telling you that is what our bonding capacity is based off of. You can bond at 10% of your net assessed valuation. If we have a $60 million net assessed valuation, we can bond for $6 million. Anything that we bond over $6 million brings up the millage. Anything that we bond below $6 million brings down the millage. If you've been around here for a while, you know that most of the time we're passing bonds somewhere around $3 to $4 million. I don't remember a bond that's been more than $4.5 million. Don't hold me to that. But I believe, and I think this shows that obviously we're going down below our max value of $6 million currently. And that's why if this doesn't pass, it will continue to drop down, and you'll see that. Okay. Now, why is that important? Why is that worst case scenario? We're going to go up to 62 million. So that means next year our bonding capacity would be $6.2 million. And then it would go up to 6.5, and then it would go up to around 6.8, and you get the picture. Now, things that change that are your ad valorem, your property taxes. Why is that important? Well, first of all, I talked about 300 houses, not classrooms, 300 houses would increase the net assessed valuation of our district. Okay. I've been told, Scott, do you have was it 225 to 275? Was that the average price, or am I
think are going to be the 250 to 300 range.
Okay, and so the net assessed valuation of that would go into that pool. Okay, you can do the math on that part. Sofadale, let's talk about them for a little bit. The paper plant south of town. It's in construction. Do what? Somebody have a question? Oh.
Talking to me.
Okay. So, again, my wife told me to be quiet, so if I need to let you talk, let me talk. Net assessed valuation of Sofadale. Sofadale came in with a 10-year TID, different than a TIF, TID, TIF. The first 5 years of that, what that TID means is their tax increment is deferred for 10 years. Okay? To us, that means we don't reap that for 10 years. But before you get too far out, the state came in and offered a 5-year state manufactured rebate. So starting in year 6, which is next year, then the state pays for everything that Sofadale should have paid for years 6 through 10. Okay? What does that mean? Or what is that value? When they came in, the net assessed valuation was supposedly approximately, Lori, I don't know if he's looking for you or.
I'm supposed to go for about 10 minutes.
Okay. Where was I at?
Assessed value of something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. When they came in, we were told they were going to be assessed about 550 to 600 million. That's when they first opened the doors. We're 5 years into it. I've been told that if they were assessed currently, it would be closer to 800 million. And by the time they go on in next year, that is closer somewhere between 800 million and $1 billion. Okay, that's where they're at now. There is talk, this is separate, there is talk of them starting to expand almost to double in size. They have a plan up in Ohio that is finishing up, doubling in capacity. They were at 80 to 85% capacity. The one down here is 110% capacity. And so supposedly as soon as it's completed up there, they're going to come down here, start working on doubling in size. I'm not using that number because that's not here. I haven't been told that. It's just some of the things that are out there. But I have been told that around 800 million to $1 billion net assessed valuation. That means for every dollar there, our net assessed value as a district goes up is 10% of that. So for math reasons, if it comes in at $1 billion, that means we add $100 million to our net assessed valuation. Where was our net assessed valuation a few minutes ago that I told you? 60 to 62 million. If you come in and you bring another 100 million to that, our net assessed valuation goes from 60 or 62 to 160 or 62. That is very important to the people in this room, because the higher that is, the lower the number that the tax increase and the bonding capacity all plays into. Now, I cannot guarantee you that they're going to come in at that number. I cannot guarantee you that didn't make a decision 10 minutes ago to close the doors and walk out. Just like you can't guarantee that they won't double in size. Worst case scenario, tornado comes in, wipes them out, they don't build back, then our net assessed valuation looks at, again, the normal 3 to 5%, even though the houses would come into that. If they stay in business, if they double, that number of $100 million added becomes very real and relevant. Okay? I'm not telling you it's happening. I'm telling you there's a very good chance that it happens. That's why it's worst case scenario.
So,
Okay? Yes.
I'm not following. So where do their tax dollars go? If they, whatever their net assessed value is, how does that affect the school on that weighted ADM because of our net assessed value? I'm not following where they're, like, that we get who gets the rebate from them being there at year 6?
Okay, no one gets a rebate. The state pays their part into the pool.
Into what pool?
Well, in this case, the net assessed value, they're paying their ad valorem, which would impact how much the millage is and how much we've got to create,
So
because
offset potentially.
let's just say it is 160 million. Our bonding capacity at that point is $16 million. Okay?
And we don't use
So
all of
$16 million, if I came in and asked for a $16 million build, I could say it's no tax increase based on 160. Okay? But right now, we're talking about a $62 million bond when our bonding capacity is $6 million. So the higher our bonding capacity is, and the closer that gets to the number that is asked, that's where the burden of tax increase falls or declines to the taxpayers. Yes, sir.
So how much cash dollar revenue do you get from the state in year 6 when they're reimbursing the
None.
Sofidel?
And none. And here's why here's what I'm gonna use Coach Daly's JL. If it was Mountain Dew, I probably would. Okay, if this cup is what Inola gets out of their general fund, okay? This cup, the state guarantees they're gonna fill this cup up.
Right.
To fill this cup up, locally generated revenue, in this case, Sofidel, anything else fills up this cup, however far. I can tell you that if Sofidel comes on the books, we'll go from about here to about here. What it does not get to the top, the state fills the rest of the cup up, so I know what we're getting, okay? I know what we're getting. Now, I don't know or I don't care what is locally and what the state comes into. I say that, I care greatly, and I can get into why, but the number doesn't change. Sofidel will not fill up the cup on its own. Now, it's important because the higher this gets, and if another company comes in or if Sofidel gets fill up the cup and the cup starts to runneth over, look at Pryor. That's what happens to Pryor with Google and Mid-America. Locally generated money is filling up their cup, coming off the cup, And anything that comes off, contrary to, and I've heard this, that does not go back to the state, that stays here. So not only is our cup full, everything around it stays here. That's why Pryor can offer more money to their teachers, because they're collecting, their cup is full based off their weighted ADM, but they get to collect all the overflow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I thought you said that in year 6, the state was gonna start paying that waived property tax for Sofdale.
Which fills up the cup, doesn't come off the cup,
I see.
it starts to fill up that cup.
How about the new homes that are going in? What's the expected revenue for Inola School District from the tax assessment on those homes?
Their property tax will go into the cup as well, just like yours. Whatever property you have, those property owners, whatever their property, whatever their houses are worth, determines their property tax, and the more goes into that cup.
If there are $250,000, $300,000 houses, how much per home
Right.
is paying into that cup?
Does anybody have a, I mean, can anybody speak to what a $250,000 home looks like on property? I can look that up, I don't know. Huh?
Per year?
Per year.
About 1,500.
Yeah, but that's the overall, right? Some of that goes to the county, not all of that comes to
Right.
the district,
Right. Yeah, the county, I think, when I researched it the other day, I was told that your county mills is 80.4. 80.4. I know Sequoia's county mills, and there's all kinds of districts, whether you're in a fire district or whether you're in a rural district, depending on the school district. But we're at 80.4. Claremore Sequoia was 104.4. So I think it depends on the number of mills. You know, right now I think we're 35 plus 11, so I think we're 46 mills. And so that's the part that would go to the school district. But again, for me, all I'm dealing with is the cup, and until the cup runneth over, it doesn't. And whatever we don't pay locally, the state, not the state manufacturer rebate, on top of that, the state fills up the cup. They stop when it gets filled up. That one reason, I'm gonna get off on a little bit of a tangent, one reason that's important for years, especially before COVID, if you heard the state talk about revenue failure impacts, and they start cutting budgets. When they cut budgets, it hurts schools that are more on that formula than the ones that are not. In 2000, I believe it was 18, we were on the formula. We're still in the formula. One year they gave us an email that they're going to be making cuts. I believe it was either February or March. We got an $82,000 cut that 1 month. Prior to almost double our size, you think they got a double amount of cut. When we got an $82,000 cut, they got less than a $1,000 cut. Why? Because they weren't state aid dependent. We are. Yes, sir.
See if I understood his question. Are you thinking, what is the state gonna do related to the sinking fund contribution for property taxes?
No, I was just wondering,
Oh, okay.
you seemed to imply that there was more revenue coming from the state because of the year 6, moving from year 5 to year 6. Did I understand that that's going to general fund, not sinking fund?
It'll, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, it does go to the sinking fund too.
There'll be the percent. Like right now, out of that 35, I think 20 of it is general, 10 of it is, so there'll be a percentage of that go.
And so if we do pass this bond, the state's gonna pay the additional portion also for Sofadel.
Right.
So if Sofdale gets a whatever percent increase, that is, and in my mind, it's good that the state, because it's almost guaranteed money, that the tax increase will be a tax increase at Sofdale. Someone else had a question over here, I thought.
So the general fund, like all the operations, the recurring lights on, salaries, is based on number of students.
Weighted ADM, yes.
Right, so at this point, obviously, we're overflowing, but if we add more ongoing costs with a new building, does that change? Like, we're not getting any more students right off the bat, and while there's 300 homes maybe going in, that's still over 10 years. Do we get any more help for keeping those lights on and those costs?
No, I mean, every construction build is a little bit more of a, if we're going to get into really technical, I'd be able to save $2,500 a month at a pot.
Right.
And so that goes into, that comes into the general fund. So 2,500 times 12 months, because we have to rent them during the summer, is about $30,000 that we would have coming in there. I know you're splitting hair, but if you're getting real technical, I just wanted to be
Plus,
totally
plus
honest.
repairs here. I
Right.
think we had sewer coming up in the classroom across the hall.
Well,
if I'm not
that's
mistaken.
kind of where I'm going with that, is that the city's kind of, I feel like putting the cart before the horse and bringing in a lot of these big businesses and all these homes, and while that's, can be great and obviously can be helpful, it's not helping the school, and I feel like it's the cart before the horse, that we can't sustain a lot of that infrastructure, that if we're having sewer backup in a new facility or can't afford it to.
The city's not bringing anybody in.
Or, well, who is it, city, county?
The Tulsa Regional Chamber and the governor brought in Sofidel, okay? People selling off their land, that's just a decision, it's free country, they're selling off their land, and people wanna sell it to people who wanna build houses. I mean, it's not really the city that's bringing people in, it's just what happens.
Well, right, so I remember when there was a vote initially, or a petition or something, it was a little bit before I started paying attention, that whenever Sofidel was being voted to be brought in, and it was, I don't know the terminology, everybody in the zip code of Inola, and it didn't pass, and then they brought it back and they annexed the,
Oh, you're talking about annexing the land out there?
yeah,
No,
so
that was
then it went to vote again and it was
20-something years,
passed.
that was a long time ago. But that was annexed because we knew that was gonna happen someday.
Well, right, but then everybody in the county who it still affects, and just today and talking
Yeah.
about this,
Well,
didn't get a say in
In the
it.
end, does it matter? I mean, we're where we're at, so.
Yeah, it matters, because
It does matter.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're not gonna tear down Sofidel.
I can't vote on it, but I have a say in this, I don't have a say in
I
everything.
pay $2,300 just for school taxes. My actual property tax is only $500, but for school taxes, I pay $1,380. Yeah, that's
One
just for
thing is
school.
though too, to go on your
So ours is
question,
getting up a lot.
the Sofidel and all that guy, those guys, they're actually producing revenue. So the more revenue that's in this area, it actually starts filling up his cup more, which the more revenue we have in the area means that it's less tax burden on all of us.
Okay, so let me stop you just for a second, because I got to repeat, I don't know if they've heard all this. So there's a little bit of question for those guys listening about revenue coming in and businesses and all of that. And the discussion is, if I'm understanding, what's caused this, where we're at, and I kind of agree with Drew. All of that stuff, however it was determined, doesn't necessarily, and I get that, yes, it does, but we can't control it. That's here. Sofidel's not leaving. Here's the here and now, and that's kind of the whole thing. This is not here to place blame or point fingers. This is how we've got to this point and where we're going. And you can make an argument that Sofidel's good. You can make an argument that Sofidel's bad. My deal is Sofidel is Sofidel, and we might as well look at it that way and go from there. And that's not disrespecting any opinion in this room. That's just me trying to summarize to the people online that have no idea why and are only hearing every few words. Is that fair?
You probably don't have to, I did some volume adjustment on mine.
What about yours? Are you? Of course, I'm not. Okay. Then, if I get text from my wife, so you're in trouble. Yes, sir.
You said the millage, if the bond issue passes, will be $27.98?
Worst case, yes, sir.
Where would that put us on that chart behind you?
This one's 28.7.
What
So,
about on your list of 50?
I would say 30 to 35. I mean, I know one district's in the 40s. I can give you that more. There's, you, and I've got one again that's 50, but that's not on. But those schools there are more locally relevant. Now, I'm going to give you another opinion on this part when you talk about 29, when you talk about 27.96, when you talk about this stuff. I'm going to preface this by saying this. According to this, we'll take these. Yes, we would be right we would be about a point, 20, actually, this is 27.94, I think it's 27.96, 27.98 somewhere.
9.6, yeah.
This is 27.94, so I think it's fair to say we're right there, okay? But let me tell you something, and this isn't for all these years, we've been below. And that is why once we get to this point, that just gets us caught up to them. That doesn't account for being behind them every year. That's why this chart, to me, speaks volumes. Based on the sinking fund, based on our per student, Inola is spending $555.70 per student on the sinking fund number. Compared to, these are county schools, Catoosa, $1,840.66. Chelsea, $673 and change. $1,346 and change for Claremore. Foyle is $282 and change. We're $555.70. Justice Tywall, $1,079 and change. Oologah, $1,644 and change. Sequoia, $931 and change. And Verdigris, $1,681 and change. That is a one-year snapshot. If I put up 22, 23, it would be very comparable. If we don't pass this, we go down to about 540. If we pass this, we're close to Oologah and Verdigris. Because of the fact that over the time, and don't kill the messenger, but to be brutally honest with you, you haven't been paying the last few years, and I'm not going to say what you should, because that's an opinion, but you haven't been paying our average, and you haven't been paying what anyone else pays sans okay. And that is for those years. So it's a big jump in 1 year, but you've been forced to this because for many years, you know, I would wager anything. You look at Wagner County, Mays County, Tulsa County, our millage, it's just facts, are low. They are, opinion alert, they are too low. Now, do I want to live with 27.96 for the rest of our life? That's not our goal. It's not. I don't know how long it is, and I can't tell you what construction prices are, but we are being forced to build in 2025, in my opinion, kind of off of what construction prices were whenever we were there. And I can tell you that the construction, if we built that same building there, that same wing now, guys, I think it goes without saying, it's going to cost us more to build this in 2025 than it built in 2003. Even though our millage was there, and our millage was here now. Do you have, somebody have a question here?
James does too, but.
James.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if this passes, it doesn't mean that we go up next year that full amount.
In my
Go
opinion,
up as the school pulls out the money that they need for construction.
these are lease revenue bonds, and we wouldn't be needing to spend $36 million next year. Okay, we would. My goal, if this passes, my absolute goal, I'll tell everybody, and I'm proud to say it, my goal is to have the parking lot and the air conditioner done this summer for next year. That's a goal. My goal is to not have the elementary done next year. Guys, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. There's 120, 150, maybe even 180 days of design, draw, implementation. To answer a question that I'll probably get later on, no, we haven't got a fine-tooth scope sequence of a work scope. I don't feel like it's relevant at this point. January 15th, the day after this election, or after this vote, my job changes drastically. My job changes with, okay, this passed, let's start here. And we get with the implementation. We start looking at designs. We start modeling. We start doing all these things. If this thing fails, we look at, okay, what are we going to do in the meantime? What are we going to do in the future? So I have not got down to specifics. The reason 36 million was determined is because we looked at companies, construction management, and they gave us again what they felt like was worst case scenario. We told them our needs, we told them what we would like. They told us it's about $35 million. That's where that number came from. Okay? Could it be less than that? Absolutely. Will it be more than that? No, because this is what we're voting in. Okay? Can the increment be lower based on net assessed value? Yes. One thing I need to, well, you have a question before I?
Yeah, I thought you said earlier that the elementary school was more like 60 million?
The bond in and of itself is $62 million for the whole thing.
Right.
To build, right now, worst case, about a $35 million elementary.
So we're actually only spending 35 plus a couple more million on the HVAC and the parking lot?
In my mind, 35 and 1.
And the rest is interest.
Interest, fees, design, test.
Is it 20-year duration? What's the duration?
In the worst case, yes. Now, let me talk about some more things about worst case. That number of 62 is based off an interest rate of 10%. Is interest rate going to be 10%? I don't believe it will be. Right now, I believe the interest rate is around 6. We've been told it could go down to 5. I've been told a very realistic number is 5.75, but I'm not going to come in here and tell you the interest rate that we're going to build on is 5 or 6 or all this perfect scenario. I'm sitting here telling you worst case scenario is 10% interest. Do I believe it's going to be that way? No. You know, I'm not going to get into politics. With the Trump administration, it's a fact that in less than 2 weeks, we will have a new president of the United States of America. What will that look like as far as construction? Will it affect the prices of construction? Will it drive it up? Will it drive it down? The feds have made 3 cuts, I believe, since we've talked. 25 base points, 50 base points, and 25, I believe. Or is it 325s or is it 25?
No,
Anyway,
they're different.
I think it's 25, 50, and 25, or 50, 25, 25. What's that going to do? Don't know. But again, based off the 10% interest, that is where that number comes from. This all started with the lease revenue bond. We bond out what we need. I'm going to give you a scenario and this is something that a few of us sat down and looked at a very possible scenario. Inola issues $5 to $7 million in bonds in the year 2025 to pay for design, engineering, preliminary testing of site preparation, needed utility relocation, and all the items needed to prepare for competitive project bidding. This thing is project competitive bidding. That's state law. We're going to do that. In late 26, early 27, Inola may issue a $15 million bond to buy long lead item materials, start construction between 25 bond issue and 26, 27. See if the interest rates continue down, be able to spread the new taxes over a larger tax basis, such as the new homes that have been completed, Sofidel, or even new businesses. Inola may issue $15 million bond in 27, 28 to finish construction between 26 and 27 bond issue and late 27, early 28. We'll see if interest rate continue down, be able to spend the new taxes over the larger tax base and new businesses. So that is one case scenario. I don't foresee a scenario that we're going to need $36 million by the end of this year. Okay? I can see a scenario that we need 5 to 7 or 7 to 10 to finish those 2 projects to do the beginning. I saw a few questions.
I'm trying to figure this out, but say if I figured out that my tax increase is $43 a month, and I know there are houses on 2 Mile Blacktop that one people just moved in right before Christmas, and there are other, I see a pad that's all ready for construction. Those houses that are all being built there weren't considered in this. So if that's my $43 a month in taxes, and as these other homes are being put in there, that $43 could go down to 40, and then down to 39, and then down to 38.
There's a lot of factors that could go in to drive it down.
So
And
it
I
might
don't know,
not could stay at 43 for the whole duration of this building.
my full
As a-
intention, I'm thinking that this is a 20-year bond. I think this thing should be paid off in 8 to 10 to 10 to 12 years.
Okay,
100%,
because
I
then
mean-
more houses will be put in there.
Do what?
Thumb taxes never go away. Once
They don't go down.
Oh, no, I
Exactly right.
totally get that,
They'll
but,
they'll become more.
Yeah.
It'll be $43 this year, and then it'll be $86 next.
Well, as far as what you vote in, once you pay it off, it goes away,
Yeah.
you're done. You know, that's why we're where we're at now.
There'll be another bond after
right.
that.
Now,
Well, if you pass it, that brings up a good
so,
question.
okay, let me, just for a second. If it's passed, and understand, it's passed at 60%, 58, 59% approval of this bond fails. So if the community decides to have another tax increase, then yes. But if not, guys, I will argue that it does, this shows that it goes down. It shows that it goes down.
But it's also based off of property values as well, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So every year when the tax assessor's actually increasing their home by 3 to 5%, that's actually going to drop by 3 to 5% just over the course of X amount of time, right?
So, I mean,
So it's
what,
going to go down. That number right there is actually decreasing by whenever they increase it every year.
right,
Your property
but I
value
can't
goes
pay
up.
for the sins in this case of the assessor. I mean, that's,
Yeah, no,
so,
I'm not trying to.
okay,
say that
okay.
either.
Yes, sir.
That's just that.
When the
That's
300
a
homes
biased
are all built and occupied, that's actually a negative for you, isn't it? Because they're not, if they're bringing 400, you said, kids with them, that you've got to accommodate now, and they're paying on average 1,500 all in for property tax, maybe 300 of that goes to you. I don't think that's enough to cover the 400 kids.
I don't, with all due respect, I don't live off that. Every kid that comes in goes to my ADM, and that bumps that up.
So do
And
you
my-
break even on a new kid in the district, or do you?
That's I mean, that's what the state thinks we do. I mean, and that can be argued because, and this sounds awful, but this kid could, because I don't look at kids as dollar signs, but you know, every grade level is worth, you have kids, and Tracy can speak better to this, you have kids that are worth 0.9 all the way up to, you could have a kid that's worth 7 or 8 points. Now, but the 7 or 8, the reason they're 7 or 8, because they need more services. They may need a para, they may need occupational therapy, they may need speech or whatever. So the state believes that yes, you're breaking even. With some kids, you break even. With some kids, you make a little. With some kids, you lose little. Until you told me what type of kid and what age and all that, I can't
But on
truthful, but
average,
that's,
do you,
yes.
as superintendent, believe that a new kid in the district is a neutral, a negative, or a positive for the facilities?
I 100% believe, I hope every year my attendance, right now, for money's sake, I hope my attendance goes up because yes.
And then the
and-
other question was, if you're doing this project now, and you said you raised a bond last year for buses and some other stuff, what do you foresee needing in the future? Like, what's the next big project on your plate that you're gonna have to come back to the people in this room to get approval for?
I can give you a laundry list. Now, I will say this, I 100% do not foresee me ever, in my superintendency, ever coming back and asking for an increase of this much. I can say this, if we have all that, we could, as soon as that is done, I could say we need an early childhood. If we have that many students, what if the majority of them are high school? We're going to need, here's my dilemma. I don't know if this has answered your question, and I don't know if I feel like I'm all over the place. I've been told as a superintendent, I need to project that over the next 10 years, that Inola more than doubles in size ADM. Now, it's what I've been told. If we're more than double, as a superintendent, that tells me I need more than double what I've got. Fair? Because we're full everywhere.
Because that's how many new homes are gonna be built here in the next 10 years?
Between homes, between businesses, if they bring in the bridge down by 71st Street that they're talking about down there, and Broken Arrow and Inola combined, and as an Inola person, I know there's a lot of, I don't want that. Don't kill the messenger. I'm telling you, I see a head nod, so I'm not totally off base, correct?
Well, my question is, and I don't know the answer, is what safety net does Inola School District have to stop BA as soon as the 71st Street Bridge comes in? Because there's an elementary school that's technically closer to the river than what our elementary school is down there to where that bridge will be. So what, I mean, we already have the go wherever you want clause, I forget the terminology for it. Yeah, the transfer, so a student, once that bridge is up, can say, I'm going to that school. But what stops it from redrawing the line and saying, hey, now that goes to Broken Arrow?
It's not my call. I mean, it's just your district, and I'll get off on a little bit of a tangent. Your school district is not determined by me, not determined by the school board. The school district, anybody that lives in our school district has the right, and we are required / given the ability, we take them. We cannot turn them down if they live in our district and they want to come to our school. No matter what baggage they come with, how great they are, how terrible they are, if they're in our district, they have the right to attend our schools. And it doesn't matter if we have 500 kids in that grade. If 400 kids moved in tomorrow, we're taking all 400 if they want to come here. Now, the open transfer rule. I'm going to get off on that in a second because that was on Facebook, and this is part of the misinformation that was out there, and I went over it last night. Open transfer is either 3 or 4 January 1st ago that Oklahoma became an open transfer state. If you guys have kids that play athletics, don't confuse that with eligibility, athletic eligibility, okay? Because that all got blown up last summer with the free move, and I'm not going there. We're talking about academics only, going to school here. They said you can go, no matter what district you live in, you can go to any school you want in the state of Oklahoma. A child in Inola can go to Woodward schools every day. Based on, you can go wherever you want. Now, that supposedly gave parents the ability to pick and choose which school they wanted. If they don't like their home district, go try another one, go try another one, go try another one. Open transfer. You have your own opinions on it, fine, it doesn't matter. It's law, we deal with it. But then they turn around and tell the school people and tell Dr. Harris, each school needs to have a capacity number per grade. That capacity number we set, I think at 100 pretty much per grade, or 110.
Almost every grade is at 100.
Okay, our capacity, we say we can take 100 per grade. They move in, doesn't matter if we have 110, we're taking number 111. But if our capacity is 100 and we have an enrollment of 97, that means the first 3 kids outside of our district that say, I want to go to Inola, we have to take them. No matter, I mean, there's a couple of small things that we can keep them out if they're suspended or whatever, but the majority of it, if we're under capacity, we take them, period. On the flip side, we have a kid who lives here, moves out, wants to come back, wants to transfer back in. We want him. Great kid, straight A, never misses a day, yada, yada, yada. But we're at 100. Nope, can't take you because we're at capacity. So I would argue that open transfer policy, by putting the capacity in, hindered us. I liked it 5 years ago when a transfer come in. We could research them, we could check their grades, we could check their attendance, we could check their behavior, we could call the other school and say, yeah, this is the guy we want. Come on, I want you to be an Inola Longhorn. This kid's going to miss school, he's going to be suspended every day. No, you just stay in your home district. We don't have that ability anymore. So all that comes back to tie into, how am I supposed to, I can't sit there for 5 or 10 years and say, I hope there's no growth. I hope there's no growth. Oh my gosh, there's growth. We're trying to accommodate for growth because for years, a lot of superintendents accommodate for growth that never happens. A lot of schools don't accommodate for growth that does happen. I believe we're doing more than guessing. I believe, opinion alert, I believe growth is imminent in Inola community. I believe growth is imminent in the Inola School District. I believe it's imminent, very important that we accommodate for growth because I can't think of a time that a past superintendent has set up here and knowing that there are 300 houses going up.
Mr. Unruh, I seriously cannot think of an empty classroom at any of the three sites.
I mean, we've got teachers at the high school, we've got district people.
I don't know where they're gonna go.
I taught in the cafeteria one year here.
I mean, Lori's been down here, and this isn't, how many offices, how many closets are we utilizing for office space? How many conference rooms have we have middle school?
Conference room right now, it's being used for class.
Yeah.
I
When
mean,
I try to have a meeting with a parent, I'm literally searching, where can I go some days? Because they're used.
So-
Which is great.
My classroom one year also was the girls' dressing room that was turned into my classroom.
I mean,
3 now, 3 or 4.
yes.
If we have this many kids coming into the district, possibly, I see a new entryway into the school. What about safety? How much money is gonna be put into safety? Right now, the way it is, the one door, office, another door, I think it's great. How is the new, whatever grade,
Uh-huh.
Gonna look as far as safety goes with all these more kids?
Safety, now, the first part of that is an easy answer, and I put him on the spot last time, I put him on the spot again tonight. The city, this road right out here that curves around and goes behind,
Yeah.
I am very optimistic that that road will go straight out to 88 and we'll have another point of entry into the school. And I'm very optimistic that we're going to have one going out closer to West Side. And so the people that live up and down B Street and C Street, we're hoping to take that number way down because nobody that lives there and nobody that pulls in likes to pull in at car wash, go down here and wait for traffic and jet out between a bus and a car. So we'll have 2 more points of entry. The building in and of itself, safety is a top priority. We talked about this last night. You know, if you went to school in this or any building back in the old days, my favorite time was as a student was fall and spring when the teacher could open that door. We opened the windows, you got that nice cool breeze. As superintendent, directed from the school board, that door is never to be open during school day. It has to be closed. And so, you know, safety, each door has the safety lock that has the key card. We have the holding cell, what we call, you walk in the main door, you get buzzed in, and then most of the people turn their stuff into the office. There's a second door that will all be part of, safety
So,
is not going away. And
so the new entrances is gonna have this sort of thing where
Mhm.
there'll be two, oh,
yes,
okay.
You got in it tonight because it's letting everybody in.
What?
You got through it tonight because it let everybody in.
Right.
you've been there on a school day when those doors are locked, right? I called our IT guy and said, I want those doors unlocked from 5:30 to 8:30.
I understand.
So, okay, that's what,
No,
so,
I understand. I'm
yeah.
talking about during the day, kids are all here.
And that's part of the problem. That is part of the problem with the modular buildings, the portable buildings, they're outside. And so every time a kid needs to go to the office, needs to go to the nurse's office, needs to come to cafeteria, you know, first graders don't carry key cards. So a school person has to come open that door because that door has to remain locked all times of the day. You know, believe it or not, what we as a school are on lockdown every day. Okay, that doesn't mean we don't, but that means every classroom door, every exterior door is locked down except for passing period or whatever. So, but that safety part will be as much. Now, and let me get in as far as safety goes, and I don't know if you were joking when you said this is what, tornado shelter. Part of this construction price, the most expensive part of this build is probably going to be the tornado shelter. I've been told, I've been emailed, I've been called, let's not do the tornado shelter, let's spend it somewhere else. Hey, we don't need it, or we need it, but I think there's other needs. Guys, discussion over. That is not to be a discussion point. State law says every new construction, you have to have a tornado shelter that accommodates the occupancy for your new build. So for everything we build occupancy, we have to have a tornado shelter that accommodates the occupancy load of that new construction based on FEMA standards. And you act like you know, I mean, you know about all this as far as, you a tornado guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, it's state law, it's expensive because, and I don't even know the specs of the concrete and all of that stuff. I was told it's just gonna go to waste. That will be something during the school day, whether it's a PE facility is my first goal. I really don't want it to be a classroom because they're not lit with natural light. Obviously, you can't have a bunch of the glass. I don't want it to be the cafeteria. PE facility is the best thing for it. There's a little bit of, we've looked for grants. I go to a meeting tomorrow morning about potentially grants for tornado shelters. It is my intent, especially if it's grant approved, another way to drive down costs if a grant comes through. But anyway, for the tornado shelter, not for the everything, but a tornado shelter, it is my intent for that to be a place for the community. Anytime Travis Meyer says tornado warning for Inola, it's my intent to have that thing open for the community at night, weekends, or whatever. It's also, when built with a little bit more money, is what they consider ballistic proof or ballistic safety, which, just being real honest, which is an evil act by men, by women, I mean, not by man, as far as potential with guns or whatever. It's a safety part. So that tornado building would be a safety measure against weather and against evil acts. And again, both things are here now. So I have been told tornadoes are great. I mean, tornado shelters are great, but we're not ready for that. That's one thing that is not on the discussion item. It's something that's going to happen if we build anything.
So will there be one placed in this building with the with the remodel?
Remodels, no. No, but it will be able to accommodate the 3 grades here. Will be able to all be in the tornado shelter.
What about middle school and high school? Is this something that will be thought of for the money to go toward as well? Or are we already set on what the money will go towards?
Well, I mean, a tornado shelter over there would be an additional expense, an additional, I mean, and those are, you know, I would love to be able to have a tornado a shelter at all places right now. I mean, and if we wanted to build one, but it'd be an additional expense to where we're at.
It's not included on this bond.
That's not included on this bond.
So it's a set list of exactly what the money will go towards?
3 things: upper elementary,
Right.
parking lot,
And the remodel for this? Right.
and that's part of the upper elementary. Yes, that's
I
all.
have another question. You said first grade would be this hall, pre-K and kindergarten. What is the rest of this elementary school going to be?
Depending on how much space we have from that, it could be mild, moderate, could be severe, profound, could be OT, PT. The nurse's office, I would assume, would stay. It will be, I would love to be able to have STEM in part of the new. It may be STEM, it may be choir, it may be art. It will be places that, depending on how many classrooms we can get, it depends on, you know, if this thing was built right now, we wouldn't need 6 sections. We would need, most of ours are 4 to 5. And so if we have 28 classrooms, we would have several classrooms that we could have an own upper elementary, mild moderate. Upper elementary is own STEM, own choir, own art. If we're looking at 6 to 7 sections per grade, that's going to be all traditional classrooms, and some of that would be here, if that answers your question. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned at the beginning a bonding capacity that wouldn't cause the taxes to go up. It's around $6 million to $7 million, I guess, is that per year? If there were, you could do a bond, I just want to make sure I got it right. You said there's a certain amount that the district can afford without raising property taxes.
Now,
what is that amount?
Well, it's 10% of your net assessed value, so yes, but we've got a current bond out.
Right.
And it usually takes, at our progression, it usually takes, they calculate for 5 years. We've been able to pay them off in about 3.5 to 4 years. So once we pay that one off, then more of that money can go towards this. But as of right now, we would have 2 bonds. If this passes, we would have this bond and we would have the current bond. And so we're able to pass about a $6 million bond every 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
When Sofadel comes in and whenever they become part of our net assessed value, I'm kind of curious why we're trying to do this now, because if they're around the corner, and maybe this is a question for our city planner over there, but whenever they come in and they're worth $1 billion, right, let's just use that for easy math, and our bonding capacity now becomes 10% of that, which is now $100 million, which would make all of this right here, what we're talking about, quite a bit easier, a lot easier to swallow.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
why now is why I say, because, I mean, and how many years are we out before Sofadel actually becomes part of our net assessed value?
Okay, to answer that question, there's 2 answers to that I'll give. One is the need is here and now.
Sure.
And, you know, do what?
They haven't built any houses yet.
Okay, we're talking about Sofadel, was what he was saying.
Because he's talking about the needs of the people that would be moving in. You're planning on their needs to accommodate those.
No, I'm talking about what we need right now, where Miss Bess isn't teaching in the cafeteria, where we're not in a building even without growth, I feel like this building needs a lot of work or replaced. That's my opinion. But, so the need is here. This actually started taking place in December of 22. We're looking at the need. We pushed pause because right after we started talking about that was when there was talk of Inola. If you guys are familiar with the solar panel plant that was being discussed, that was in the front page of the Tulsa paper, that was on the world news one night. Oklahoma to land the biggest industry, which was Inola America, Inola solar panel plant. We were going to get a TIF, not a TID, a TIF in the amount of money of probably $40 to $50 million. That's what we were going to build this with, was that TIF. Way back as soon as January of 23. So we stopped this talk of series bond, and we're going to sit there, and we went back and forth about how much money, because there's 7 entities that would get a piece of that TIF: the county, the city, the school district, the hospital, the fair board, tech, and one more. Anyway, we talked about it. We were going to have enough money to do this. All we need is Inola. Okay, it's in the paper, it's on the news. Let's go. Guess what? If you know about Inola, in my mind, it's a fact, they're still not here. We're 18 months further down the road. The problem is still here. The problem is just 18 months later than where we are at now. So the need is there now. That's one thing. I'll get off another tangent. That's why this vote is next week. Not, and I will argue with anybody, not because we're trying to sneak this through, because we sat there and the board sat there and said, we've got to move. We've got to go now. As a school person, I was warned, you may not want to do this in January. That's right after Christmas. That's when people's money's tight. That's when you've got a bunch of people just got first semester report cards and now they're mad at the math teacher. That's when they're mad at the football coach, the basketball coach. You got a lot of people mad. You need to pass these in August when everybody's got warm and fuzzies about the school and how the year's going to be great. Just being honest, what I was told. We sit there and go, we can't wait till August. We can't wait till then. We feel that. So that's the first part. The second part with the lease revenue bonds, we feel like we're getting the best of both worlds. If we were coming and asking to start and we knew that we're ready for this $35 million elementary, then I could see why don't you wait a year? But when we're only asking for a small part of that for next year, and then when they go on, we're asking for the majority of this money once they go on, I feel like we're capturing all of that. Plus, if it goes on now, the more that it goes on now, the more we capture from Sofidel. And Sofidel has more to put into the pot than anybody in this room combined. I think we need to capture that money. But that's not the reason. The reason is the need is here and now. And the reason is, I believe we can mitigate some of our damage by doing it now and get a majority or some, I'm not going to say majority, get a lot, if not majority, if not most of the money, whenever our net assessed value is greater. But I can't talk my accountant and my bond person into living in that world. They live in the world of no, it's doom and gloom, it's 10% interest, your growth is going to be 2 to 3%, it's not going to be $100 million growth. Now, so humor me for a little bit. Talk about this. Well, it'll be better. It'll be better than what you think. So, I have a question over here.
You mentioned, I think this was asked earlier, but you mentioned it takes up to 180 days to even get a finalized timeline and all of that. What are we looking at? Okay, so we're 180 days. How long till those kids walk through that door?
Was it January 27? Is that what they?
27 or 28?
I think it's going to be August of 27 or January 28 again, I'm kind of like the accountant. I live in usually the worst case scenario. But I mean, it's going to be down the road. The only silver lining to that is for people that are, the longer it takes, the less the tax increase. I would love for it to be in August of 25 and that burden be tougher on you. But I would. I would. If I would. Because I think the need dictates it.
The need was here in 22, and we're 3 years.
And in 22, when we decided that, or when it wasn't decided, when we started talking about that, there was no talk of 300 homes. There was talk of Sofidel, there was talk of things, but that is where this whole thing has shifted, that there are 300 homes that are, in my mind, coming, and I've got a lot of city people and a lot of people in the know that I think would verify that statement. They've broke ground on that, right, Scott?
The 136, matter of fact, I got an email today, on the 136 homes, they're ready to come back in for platting, even though they started their dirt work, they did it at risk. It is my understanding that 160 homes out by Ruby Estates, they're still trying to work out their water issues in the rural water district, but that is forthcoming, is my understanding. And of course, that's a county bill, not a city bill, but it does apply into the school district. Now, if Jeff will allow me, I'm gonna try to come back to where I think we're more rubber meets the road on what will really happen here. For legal reasons, he has to give you worst case scenario. And that worst case scenario is $62 million. That's $62 million based on the current net assessed values. That's the current homes plus about a 3% growth factor over about a 20-year term. Now, if you believe that Sofidel is going to pay taxes, or the state pays them on their behalf starting in 26, 27, and we have above the 3% growth factor, Basically, we got 300 homes plus whatever other homes are built within the school district. That $62 million starts tightening up because at that point, they'll have to make a decision. The school board and the school is, we're only bonded for this $35 million. We have the choice of either reducing the tax rate, which will naturally kind of happen, and then shortening the length of the term of the loan. So when you do those two functions, that 62 million, in my opinion, is probably gonna drop below 50. Jeff would probably never say that, and I wouldn't ask him to.
Scott Devers, isn't
Because of those two issues, and that's 10% interest, and we're talking loans at probably 6. Well, that's 4% interest over 20 years. That's a lot of interest money. So by adding the new net assessed values, lower interest rates, all those things combined shortens the term, and the millage rate, in my opinion, will probably never get to that 27 mil. That's me only. I don't want, that's not the school opinion. That's me looking at what I know.
Scott with 2 T's.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I mean, that's,
One thing I've been curious of too, though, is on top of this is currently we're at 11.74, possibly going to, just rounding here, let's call it a 12. On the website, we're talking a 16 to 17%, or it's not a percent, 16 to 17 mil increase, which again, that would put us up in, just for sake of argument, around a 29. You know, we keep hearing this talk of 20% increase. That's not a 20% increase. That's like 150% increase. We're talking about mills.
No.
Is it not?
No.
16, 17 over there.
your property taxes will be affected, worst case, at 20%.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I mean, at 11, you're not at 0 at 11, so you're, I mean,
realize that. You're
I mean,
at
what-
12
what-
and you're increasing it by 16 to 17.
so what are you paying in,
Have you looked at your tax statement and done the math on it?
But that's only the sinking fund.
On the sinking fund part?
So that's what I'm asking you, is the increase with the sinking fund
It is a higher tax
16%.
It's 20% of your overall property tax bill.
Just for that one line.
But you're right on the sinking fund.
I did it on mine and it came out, the math came out.
That's what I'm
I thought it
asking.
would be 20% of my total tax bill is what it came out, almost exactly when I did the math. For the sinking fund increase.
I got you.
Yeah.
the average is a relative term, the average increase that each Inolan would pay, the average is between $18 and $22 a month. And again, that's average. That means a lot of people are above that, a lot of people are below that. That's the average. Yes?
So this is just my opinion, but if I was making this decision as if I was making it for my own personal. So the net assessed value, we wait for Sofidel and the 2 developments to be built, get added to our net assessed value. Then Sofidel starts paying in 2026 or end of 2026. The houses are actually purchased, occupied, and they're paying taxes. And then, in the meantime, and I know it's not ideal, but add modular buildings to accommodate the kids. I know that comes out of your general fund, and that's really not what you're wanting to do.
Exactly.
But none of us are really wanting to pay 20% either.
Understand.
Yep.
So it just seems like we're.
So what I'm hearing is, without being,
Before they're-
can I be a little bit,
Exactly.
can I be a little bit sticky?
Sure.
So by that thinking, if I came to you a year from now, then I don't have to worry about this thing passing? You think it would pass really easy?
Well, because you're gonna have that money from Sofidel.
That's what I'm asking. So,
100%, so let me put my CEO hat on here. So what we do with all my hospitals is you have no planning, no design, no as-built. You said it's gonna take 200-something days, almost a year. So what you do is do your bond, do the HVAC, do the parking lot, and do a smaller bond for what you're gonna need for architectural fees, as-built stuff. And that money from Sofidel will raise our ADM up. Then you have all that money, you don't have to do a bond. So we can get started now, because this is gonna happen regardless, right? We're growing, it's gonna happen. It probably is. Tulsa moving this week, can't get over it.
That's not gonna happen if people don't pass it.
I'm saying is that you do a smaller bond to get everything in place to go, so when Sofidel comes in and that cash register's ching, you say, let's go, and you don't do a bond on the people.
I mean, that's, I mean.
That's common sense, and that's.
Well, now, I will argue, I mean, I take that I don't have common sense
No,
by
I'm just
going, I
saying,
mean, that's what I take it
I
as,
have
so.
82 hospitals around the country. Like, it's good to have people that have done this. That's the way to best do it, to mitigate the tax burden on the
Okay,
people.
so here's
And you
the,
still get what you want.
so here's the thing I'll answer to that. Literally, 7 nights from right now, I will know. I will know that 60% or more agree we need it here and now. And if 41% don't think we will, then we're going to come back, we're going to have school, and we're going to go and figure out, and that may be our next option. If this thing fails, you have 2 options. You have 3 options. You can just sit there and take your ball and go home and be done with it. You have option number 2, you can drastically change the scope of the project, scope of the bond. In this case, that would drastically change the scope of the bond. You could take the bond and you could put it into 3 different parts, vote for elementary, vote for parking lot, vote for HVAC. Or you can sit there and say, okay, I think we'll wait 120 days and revote the same thing. My deal is this, at the end of the day, we're putting it out there because we feel like it needs it. If 60, that time is of the essence. If 60% people think it's of the essence, we go this way. If 41% think it's not, we have to go a different way. And so that is something I'm going to say on behalf of the board and myself. A lot of us are getting what I feel like unfairly personally attacked for doing something, a professional job, a professional requirement. I believe it's my professional duty to fight like heck for these kids, to fight like heck for our faculty, to fight like heck for our community. That's my professional job. Personally, do I want to raise anybody's taxes? Heck no. I'm the guy that this is the 2nd year that's coming in less than 24 months into my job and saying, I'm going to be that guy. I was already told at church Sunday morning, I want you to sit away from me, some of me. Honest to God, and they were joking. You're the one that's got the big bullseye that nobody in town likes. That's a heck of a deal. But that's it's what I signed up for. It's what I want to do. And I take it very, very serious. And it's a very thought out, well planned, maybe not well received, but it's planned out. And I can assure you the board feels the exact same way. No one wants to do this, but it's not a want, it's a need. But anyway, yes, sir.
In your recap, you left out one scenario, which is the one he just described.
No, that's drastically changing it, so.
Well, okay, but the scenario of the remodel, the 800,000 for the parking lot, the 800,000 for the refurbishment, the HVAC, and then the architecture fees to actually get the detailed plan. Because I came with a series of questions that I initially you stated you didn't have answers to, which would be, what's the price per square foot? What are we actually doing here? What's the architectural piece? How many buildings are we actually, all that. You don't have that, which is fine, because that costs money to get. But to me, that would be a great first round, to be a smaller scale, I believe as he does. This is gonna happen, but you'd be a more informed electorate and a management of the process. You actually got the bond for, say, $7 million to do pieces and planning, and then you could come back and say, we actually have a detailed plan, it's $28 million to do this.
I can't get a detailed plan because it has to go to open bids.
That's fine, go to the bids.
But I can't just go to open bids without a bond being passed and saying, hey guys, I want you to come, everybody come together, give me a bid on something that hasn't been passed. You know what I'm saying?
Incentive to do it. So,
Well, we're saying you'll have the Sofidel money, but you've got the hard part that takes the longest already done. So you're prepared, you're ready to break ground. So that way we can go, okay, Sofidel money's here, we've got all this, okay, let's go. Here's your as-built, let's go, let's figure out a contractor, let's get the bids and let's rock and roll, and we have all the money there to do it.
Okay, but.
Well, it's kind of an open check right now, an open checkbook right now too. If you don't have any design whatsoever, how do you factor in a cost?
Really?
I mean,
Especially when we give you 61 million, it only takes 35 to build it.
I don't know, I think everybody appreciates your advocating for the children and.
I don't think
we all
so.
understand. And I think he's got really good points. I mean, I think there's a good, why not have open discussions, and maybe there's better ways, you know? And
That's what this is the third one of open discussion. Absolutely, absolutely.
So, but even when Sofidel comes on, our bonding capacity is gonna maybe double, right? So we're talking 6 million, it's gonna go to 12. I mean, that's still not enough.
Well, you actually don't know if it's enough.
No, I'm telling what the school
Well,
is
you know
gonna
what,
get.
Sapulpa
You don't know.
passed, I think in September, I posted their little thing on, you know, they're currently building, they're getting a new baseball and softball fields, an indoor facility and bleachers. This is the first leg of their 3-year build of a $279 million bond. And for those things that I just mentioned, it's $23 million. 2 fields, bleachers, and an indoor practice facility. So I think when you,
Well, all you're telling me is that 32 million may not be enough. So actually, we don't know what else.
Spending way too
Or the
much
Sapulpa's
on
overpriced.
baseball fields.
Right, or the
well,
Sapulpa's-
I don't know what they have, what they're working with or whatever, but I think when I look at those dollars, I feel like what they were asking, because I thought the same thing, and I'm an advocate for sports, I'm an advocate for, you know, trying to do what's best here, and that in the cafeteria, on a rainy day, the kids come down and our tables usually sit like this, and 5 rows here, and then there's a break, and then there are 5 more. On rainy days, the tables aren't set up that way, and they're like, where am I supposed to sit? Where's my table? Because they're all working around the trash cans that's catching the water that we've had repaired. This building is just old, and something's got to give.
No, there's no doubt that there needs to be stuff that needs to be done, but like they were saying, if you don't have an idea of what your plan is, you don't know if you have enough money, you might need more.
No, we know we've got enough.
Yeah.
We know we've got enough.
I'm just, yeah.
And we know a basic plan, so it's not like we're just, you know.
Yeah, there's not a floor.
I would say I feel like we're being accused of being willy-nilly and we're not doing this. Here's my question. Adair, that's pretty comparable. I mean, we see them all the time. They're paying $27.52 every year and have been forever. Why do our kids deserve to be up here when Adair kids are here? Why do our kids deserve way up here when so many of the, I mean, and if you look at me and say, because our kids, that's what they deserve is 11 meals, then I'm not going to argue. I mean, it's nothing to argue. My thought is our kids deserve more than that. I believe that our kids should not be under, I believe that's just my belief, that our kids are no less important now than they were in 2003, 2004 when our meals were 29. I believe that.
But that's the thing, we're not saying that we don't disagree that we need this for the kids. What we're disagreeing is there's no plan, there's no breakdown of product or anything like that. So you're just taking out 62 million and there's, I mean, you only use, I'm just saying 20 and that's it. There's no breakdown for everybody to see it, you know what I'm saying?
I can give you a breakdown
So
of
physically
her
seeing
work
it,
and-
it's really messing with people's minds.
I've got a
Do you understand what I'm
breakdown.
saying?
I've got a breakdown of it, but it's all projection because you don't know.
We do care about our
18
kids, and I do
you
believe
know,
that
I mean, that's what it is.
there needs to be upgrades, and I do believe that. But
I'm a firm believer in increase your revenue, and a lot of these problems completely go away. A good example is one that I actually looked up before I came in here is Jenks. I would everybody agree Jenks is a pretty nice area. Their bill rate's a 9.84, so lower than ours.
Their millage?
Yeah. I looked it up before I come in here, the 984.
Then they either just paid off one or their new bonds on them.
Can you look at that? I find that.
I don't know, maybe I'm looking at something different.
Well, can we go back to the math on Sofidel though, real quick?
Sure.
So, when Sofidel comes on in January of 26, correct? Is that when they're coming on, the tax money?
Mhm.
Okay. So, our bonding capacity is gonna probably double. right?
It'd be 10% of $1 billion, which is 100.
Well,
Right. Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Right,
So,
six.
so instead of being able to bond for $6 million every, however many, 3 or 4 years, it's gonna be 12 million, is that correct?
16.
It's gonna be 16 million.
If we go from 100, if we go from 62 to 162,
Yeah,
so we're at 62,
Yeah.
so
so
about
16
16.
million.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're wanting us to wait how long? 2 more years? Is that fair? Whoever?
I just would like to see the houses built, occupied, and.
So, okay, so that's, let's say 2 years. I would say it's gonna take 2 years. Okay, so in 2 years, Sophadell, 16 million, I don't know how much the other houses are gonna help out, but we're still not there. I mean, right now, we're saying it's gonna take 35 million today. What do you think that's gonna be 2 years from now?
You're over half there. If you did 7 million first and you get 16, you're at 23 million.
I
So
know, I
You're
got
half
you.
there. So I'm saying you reduce the tax burden for the people because you don't have such a big bond.
Well, the tax burden's gonna be,
You can't build for three, you gotta pay it off before you can do another bond, and that takes 3.5 to 5 years. Correct? Right?
That's correct.
So we,
I think it's a series bond.
Yeah, it's a different bond.
okay. So we could do another bond in a year if we did do.
With a tax increase.
Yeah.
Right, but it'd be less of a tax increase.
Be less, yeah, I mean, you're asking for
And then,
less.
then we more in the weeds and stuff, like you get in your contracts, like how many change requests are you allowed to have? What's the cost per change request when you go over, because you're gonna have them? What's your overrun? What are you gonna have? Like, you get more into the
it's all
details of
been
actually
factored
knowing
in.
a true cost instead of, it should be this. Well, should be is never should be, it's always more.
Yeah.
It's always more.
Guarantee
I can
you,
promise you
if
it's
you have a
been more.
contractor, they'll give
We
you
built
a
4 of them this year. It's always more this year. It's always more than what we budgeted and planned for.
Yeah. Yeah, I guarantee
But
you.
the bond
it's
company is allowed for those.
Right.
Yeah, that's why it's overshot.
So,
Yeah.
a couple things. One is, we're not getting a blank check for 62. The 62 is what, if the course of the bond has to go the full 20 years, and if the interest rate is at the max of 10%, that's what the bond would cost. Of that, we would get the 36 million. Now, like we've said, we don't project that the interest rate is going to be that high. We don't project that it is going to take 20 years for us to pay it off. So we don't project that we're actually ever going to get $62 million. That's not where we see our end goal being.
And you're certainly not getting it this year
Right.
on your taxes.
Now,
But the vote that we're gonna vote on is going to approve up to $62 million, which means
Right.
you could use it any way you want it.
No, we
Within,
can't use it.
within the bond restrictions, I understand. I mean, come on, I understand.
Within the bond restrictions, I mean, we're not silly here. Well, but somebody might not have understood that.
Yeah.
There are people everywhere listening to this conversation. I know. It's not funny. This is not a laughing matter.
To me, I think what's been frustrating to me is I feel like there's a lack of communication with the community. You want us all in on it.
Thank you.
Because there's been so little, I mean, I talk to people every day that know nothing about this. And it's like, if you're not in the school bubble,
So how in the world can we get the word out more than, because I can't even get on Facebook without getting blasted for, I mean, I see a Facebook all over the place. It's been in papers,
first question, what time are our school board meetings and what time and what day of the week?
Friday at noon.
Okay. Who works at noon on Friday? That's why you don't see people at your board meeting.
No, that's not the case because for years they were Monday at 6, Monday at 7, Tuesday at 6, Tuesday at 7. We never saw school
Yeah,
board.
I was on for 15 years, had them
It doesn't matter, it should be open and
At six-
available.
six
to-
It is open and available.
Yeah, when people are at work, the only reason why I made it, and I didn't even know you guys even had them.
You know what? We had just as many complaints because you're doing it during the basketball game. You're doing it during our family time. You're doing it this. I work nights. I work this. There's no way to set a time that works for everybody. No way.
All right.
I had a meeting, that's why I had Saturday morning. People were mad that I had it on Saturday morning. I've done it Monday and Tuesday night. I had it, well, why don't you do it in the middle of the day? I don't know what to do on that part.
So, to circle back, I've never received a thing to say, hey, we have a school board meeting this day from the school. I've only been told you can see it on the website.
Second Friday of every month at noon. It's turned into the court. I mean, it's,
Posted on the door,
huh?
That's all I'm saying. I know, I'm.
if you wanted to be there, you could get there.
I'm a parent of 3 children. I'm not, I'm coming from this as also a child of a teacher. I'm also been a student here.
I know, it's not funny, he thinks everybody's funny.
So I understand the need. I completely understand the need.
Right.
I have children in the school. I've been in the school. But I'm hearing what everyone else is hearing, and I know a lot of parents, because I am so involved in the school. And they all feel the same way, that it was not brought to their attention in the correct way as a community. And all of us see the need. Every single one of us do. Believe me, we see the need with the teachers we have, with everything. So all we're saying is that we would have liked it brought to the community rather than us finding it out on Facebook of what's going on.
So, does it not help that we've had 3 meetings? We've had them on Saturday mornings, we've had them on Monday night, we've had them on Tuesday night. I mean,
And they've set up at athletic events.
And I try to talk to you, and you wouldn't talk to me. You turned your head, and
Kat, you and I have never,
we've never had a problem. But I had to ask my husband. My feelings were hurt because I was trying to ask you a question, and
Well, I
so
can
leave so you can do your thing with the guys. And just for that brief moment, and you just kind of looked at him, you turned away. I was like, you know what?
I can assure
I said, I
you,
hope he doesn't hate me because I have these questions.
I can assure you, if that happened, that was not intent. I can assure you, I don't operate that way. And I think you know me well enough for
And that's what
driving
I'm saying.
that.
I felt
If
very-
I turned, it's because I had no idea. I apologize from the bottom of my heart. I don't operate like that.
And
Never
I'm
have,
about
never
to
I
trust
would.
you, and
Huh?
I trust you. And
I was gonna say, I think I've earned your trust, because that is, if that's the case, I can assure you, there was no ill intent on that. I welcome conversations 24/7. My phone rang at 4:30 this morning, a question about it. My phone will ring tonight. I don't, and if I am in front of 2 streams, I apologize if that's what it looked like. Not my intent, 100%.
That's why I didn't show up that Saturday, because I was like, you know what, because I asked questions and he upset with me.
So, I don't get upset with questions at all.
To circle back to the Jinx ad valorem or sinking fund, according to the most recent data I can get is based on their 2023 fiscal year, it was 32.3.
I was gonna say, I think it was in the 30s.
I don't know, maybe it wasn't the sinking fund that I looked at.
But I'm just saying, that's a huge thing that you come and say that Jinx is 9 when it's 32. I mean, that's less than where we're at. I mean, I would get in a big bind if I sit there and lied, or not lied, but had misinformation from 9 to 32.
Right.
Okay.
So can you fact checked it, and she did. So.
Right. So I'm just saying that Jinx is one that I looked at. Collinsville, I believe, is close to 34. So
You would never lie.
No, I didn't. I'm just saying that is something that we need to get because had she not checked that and people walked out, man, Jinx is less than I know.
Said if you could check it, 'cause I'm
Right.
not sure if you
Right.
how you read
So
it.
that's.
So that's why he said that.
But anyway, other questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
Alright, so this is just based on my knowledge of if you have a home improvement project and you postpone it, generally that project, whatever problem is wrong with your house, is gonna get worse. So, and then it's gonna cost you more money. That's my thought, is like, okay, so if we push this off 2 years before we vote again, and then it takes another year to build, at what point are we gonna have more money to put in this building? Because
Well, the
that's
problem with that
been
is-
4 years of not upgrading
The
this.
problem with that is that's out of our general fund, which is trying to be protected at all costs, and that's where we're at. I mean, again,
And how much do we pay for the 2 buildings? we
about
have out
30,000 a year.
That is probably,
Almost-
I thought it was
almost
like, we
25.
wait
No.
longer to upgrade this, it's gonna be a bigger issue
I
in
mean,
this building.
I can't disagree with that.
One thing we all need to kind of consider too is that, yeah, okay, we're talking about the elementary right now, but we've got the junior high. If we're gonna have this kind of growth, it's deferred, it's gonna be years from out, but we've got the junior high and high school that's gonna be coming right up next. I mean, they'll have to be upgraded as well. I don't know why we wanna start planning on fixing our revenue issues or whatever it is from here to there. So when those come up, then we are prepared. And we're not having a conversation like this where we're, we want to raise the taxes by 20%.
Okay, so,
Like, hell no.
so let me expand on that. You're talking about potential needs over there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how, I mean, to me, that says more about we need to do this now than anything. Because as soon as, I mean, how can you sit there and go,
That we could be generating revenue, I mean, a year from now possibly, which could increase, it could decrease everything a year out. You know, I think it's a bit premature personally. I'm not trying to attack you, I feel like there is a need, and I feel like there's a need coming with your junior high and high school as well, which is right around the bend as well.
that's what I'm preaching to,
But I think
that's
we
preaching
need
to the choir. I
think
mean,
maybe, he has a good point that maybe there's a better way to do this.
Well, building
That's-
this will take off the additional stress of the classrooms being used at the middle school for the fifth graders. So that alone will free up a lot of space.
yes, sir.
Yeah, first I want to say I appreciate the difficult position you're in.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your hard work, but another argument for maybe postponing this a bit, and this is the first thing that went through my mind when I learned about this. This community just voted a sales tax increase that gave us among the highest sales tax rates in the country at 10.5%. Increased our sales tax rate by 2.5%.
No, wait, that,
Yeah, Scott, what do you
That's
think
true.
about that? Is that right?
We just did in the beginning of the year, right?
We did.
Our sales tax rate went from 8-ish to 10.5?
No, the city went from 3 to 4.5
Right,
a year ago.
a year ago,
Well, we actually just got it in September.
yeah. Anyway,
well, wait a minute, so is it 4.5 or 10.5?
4.5.
That's the city, not.
He's saying the overall.
4.5 the
tax
overall.
rate.
overall,
Yeah,
this
right.
community
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
10.5% rate.
Oh, so he's not talking about city, he's talking about county. Okay, okay.
If you go into
No.
Starts and buy something, you're gonna pay 10.5% sales tax. Our rates just went up. So I'm thinking like, my whole life just got more expensive for living in this community, and now they're coming at us, and this is unrelated, I completely appreciate that it's apples and oranges, but it's cash dollars out of the pocket of every person in this room.
Fair.
And so that's a reason to wait, because that was the first thing that went through my mind, is like, we just did the sales tax increase, and now we're doing a property tax increase on top of that, and it's just taxes, 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 right?
Personally, I think the economy is, and maybe a little political here too, but I think our economy is a little bit of the toilet right this moment too. I don't think it can get worse. Well, it could, but I think next year, I think they're gonna see better prices. You guys are thinking the prices are gonna get worse, but I would say that, I would argue that it's, I don't know, it can get worse.
I don't think construction costs are gonna go down, unless you have a recession, I guess, you might, if oil tanks or something, but I don't think any of the stuff's gonna go, it's gonna be more expensive 2 years from now. Something will be, whether it's concrete or whatever, I mean.
You're still kind of looking at the same timeline, because you still have to do your as-built and plans, so if you did that, make sure you're taking all of next year, just doing it and getting planned. Nothing is gonna get fixed here, the building's not gonna get built, so the cost of goods is still gonna be the same, whether you pass the bond now, or you pass part of it and get the other stuff that needs to be done now. I think that'd be too easy, and then go ahead and then come back and say, okay, Sofidel's here, we've got basically 23 million in the ADM or whatever, and then we can do another bond that's less burden on the taxpayers. Because you got 6, and then you got 16? So you got
My
23 million.
understanding is that we pull as needed, so we would
Yeah.
only pull the 7 million that we need, or whatever it is for the beginning stuff,
Design
anyway.
purposes and as-built.
All that this is doing is saying, yes, we are giving the school the permission to spend $32 million or $35 million to build an upper elementary. And we won't be pulling that until we need it. And so instead of having you go to the polls every single time and run the risk of one day people going, you know what, I don't want to do it in elementary anymore. And then we've started and we've put all of this work into it, and then it just sits there not finished. By having one vote and having the ability to go ahead and start pulling money as we need, we wouldn't, as he said, we wouldn't be pulling the largest chunk until later on anyway. And so doing it this way, it's just one vote and we get $35 million guaranteed to build an elementary school.
But our taxes still go up 20% now.
No, they go
See, that's
up
the
as
point.
we pull.
As they
Oh.
pull, as
Yes.
the bonds are.
We're really talking about doing it the same way. You're just saying don't approve it till later, and I'm saying approve it now.
It's just
That's our
easier,
difference.
it's an easier yes
Yeah.
with a smaller number. People are having sticker shock.
Yeah.
Some people.
Yeah, that was the question.
Well, let me, okay, so that's, so let me say that, because again, I feel like Drew and I and some of us are really getting pulled. I respect that. I understand that. I respect that. But I also need you to know how many emails, how many phone calls, how many conversations I have that feel like, no, we want it now. If you wait, you're doing a disservice to our kids. So there's two sides to this. It's not 100%. I promise you this thing is not going to be voted up or down by 100% a week from now. It's going to have both sides. And one thing I ask is that at the end of that, because if you're an adamant one way or the other, there is going to be winners and losers in that. The only thing I ask is that January 15th, we come together as a community and as parents and grandparents of school kids and figure out what's best at that time. And not to sit there and take your ball and go home because your side got beat or whatever. This is a group effort. I have, for every one person that wants us to wait, there's one that does here. All I'm saying at the end of the day, roll the ball out. It's going to come out one way or the other, and it's not going to come out close, a skim by 51%. It's 60%. And that's going to speak that the public was everybody's got to agree, if it passes with 60%, then it passed pretty dang strong. And if it fails, it fails. But my deal is, I feel like it's my job to put it out there. I don't get to make the decision. That's why I don't understand some of the, and I'm not talking about in this room, I'm not talking about, I don't understand some of the borderline hate that we're even putting it out there. I don't understand that. I feel like that's an obligation that the board has, that I have, and I feel like the community has, to at least put it out there and let it decide. That's the greatest thing about the USA. Let them decide.
I think everybody agrees with you, and
But again, I disagree with that.
I'm not trying to, well, I agree with you in the sense that you're advocating for our kids. There's a need. We shouldn't be going after you guys. I mean, I think we've laughed off a couple of our discussions that we've tried to have. I think that might have got everybody a little bit razzled a little bit. But, I mean, I think it's good for everybody to sit in here and have a discussion. I mean, and I'm sorry you guys felt attacked. I wasn't trying to do that. But I do want to discuss what we could do moving forward. And if it doesn't pass, and I think that everybody in this room cares about the community, otherwise they wouldn't be here.
I agree with that too.
Because I don't want higher taxes. I mean, I resist taxes completely, 100% all the time, but I don't think that's a good way to grow your economy or your.
I mean, that's all it is us putting it out there. And again, I don't think any of us have pressured everything that I've stated. I hope, if it's an opinion, I hope I preface it by that. We're getting the facts out there. And again, when I have one-on-ones, I don't ask their opinion when they come in, and I certainly don't ask when they leave. But I give the same information across the board so that they can make an educated decision. And I can promise you, January 15th, my job's going to change one way or the other. And if it passes, doesn't mean that, okay, now it's over. I expect the community to give input on what we do if it passes. I expect the community to give input if it fails. We need this input. You know, we need this not just here and now. We've needed discussion for 25 years. I don't think anybody would argue that this is too low. I think everybody says, yeah, it's probably too low. How did we get here? I don't recall one person going, hey guys, we better address this because one day it's going to be a big problem, myself included. But now we've got to this point. It's the time to make the best of what we've got. And the best of what we got, maybe by voting this down, maybe by accepting it and passing it. I appreciate your time. This is, again, I didn't mean to go, we're at the 2 hour mark exactly. The Saturday morning was 2.5, last night was 2.5. That's 7 hours of discussion, of healthy discussion that we've had. And it shouldn't end now. I've had emails, I've had phone calls. I covet them. I appreciate them. I want to be able to sit there because, is that your wife?
Yeah, Casey.
It bothers me that I've had somebody in our community think for 2 or 3 weeks that I turned my back on them. That bothers me. You know what I'm saying? It does. And I'm just saying, I care about this community. I care about this school. And I'm not trying to convince you of anything other than I apologize because I don't do that. And if anybody, call me out. Last night, I'm not going to be accused of not returning emails because I return my emails. I return my phone calls. That's professional responsibility, professional job. So because this meeting is about to wind up, Dr. Harris, myself, anybody associated with the school, call us, email us. Feel free. Please do. But again, I just want you to know that there are two sides to this. And there is a lot of pressure to bring this forward. And we talked about it at the board. Let's bring it and let's see. Because it's not going to be a 51 deal and it's going to be 60 or it's going to not be. And I think it's going to speak volumes one way or the other. Educate yourself, continue to ask questions. Understand that no one is sitting here excited, especially me and the board, excited about raising people's taxes. Nobody is. But in that same vein, no one's excited about sending their kids to a 61-year-old building that's, and that just, when this first all came up, I dreaded it, I thought about it, but I thought, we're not going, and with all due respect, and Lori's, but no one's a bigger sports fan than me, but we're not coming and asking for fields, for turf, for wants, for fun stuff. I don't believe the air conditioning in the gym is a fun thing. I believe that is a need. I believe it's embarrassing to be the only school and for other schools to dread to play Inola, and Coach Swope can't even schedule home games until October because no, we're not playing in that gym. We'll play you here in our air conditioning. We're not playing in your place. I think it's a need. I think our parking lot, I've been told our parking lot's just fine.
I drive it every day.
That's a need in my opinion. So, all that to say, again, we're over 2 hours. Some of you guys have been here last night. Some of you have been here all 3. Some of you guys have over 7 hours in this too. I want to be respectful of you. Yes, sir?
If you know someone that hasn't heard about it or they're wondering why they haven't, help us. The chamber is, we've not everyone is on social media, but we've put it out there. Not everyone buys the paper, but we've put it in there. We've tried to get it in as many places as we could think of, but I'm going to tell you the best way to get people to know about it is by talking to them. So encourage them to call Jeff's office, say, hey, I want to come in and talk to Jeff. I don't understand. We want everyone to be informed. And again, if you've got ideas about how the community can be better informed, there's other things that will be coming up. And we need to know, so we're a community. We were talking about a bridge at 71st Street and our school district. This right here keeps Inola strong. It keeps Inola the way you've known it all of your lives, working together and coming to a census on what we do. Is it going to grow? It is. we're too close to Tulsa not to. We're sitting between Tulsa and Northwest Arkansas. And people like Northwest Arkansas, people like Tulsa. Inola is the next place of growth. You add into that Tulsa Port Authority. We're gonna grow. We need your input, your wisdom, your thoughts and ideas, so that as a community, we control the growth. Otherwise, someone will come in and they'll do it for us. And those of you that have been here all your life, you've worked way too hard to let that happen. Thank you for being here. Thanks for allowing Jeff and the other administrators to talk to you. Go home, consider the numbers, look at what we're doing. Can we give them the permission to say, okay, here's the amount. We know it's going to be taken in bite sizes, chunks at time. It's incremental. It's not all at once. We believe Sulphur will come on, and that will reduce it. There is a wastewater treatment plant. They have turned dirt at the Tulsa Port. That will not only be to their benefit, it's to Inola's benefit. So we're going to see some improvements. The city, the school, the community, a lot of people are trying to make sure that this remains that small hometown feel. So we can argue about the Christmas tree next year. Okay?
I wish it would, Facebook would blow back up about that instead of this.
I got a suggestion on how to notify, because I was taught when I was in school, you had a responsibility to vote. You got a sign down there at the high school. Go down there in the morning and put up a sign for a week that says, vote on January the 14th. And you probably make about 4 more. Put one out here at the four-way, or out there at the Texaco. Put out one out there at the east side on my 412 property. You bring it out there and I'll put it on there. About 3 or 4 signs. A lot of people will vote, then they'll know.
Thank you.
I had somebody come to my house and drop off a flyer. I wasn't there, my kids were. Somebody dropped a flyer on my house, drove to my house. Somebody was driving around. I don't know who it was.
I heard you can tell your 16-year-old to put on Facebook. Everybody will know.
Do what?
No.
I said,
TMI, he's saying too much information.
Oh.
Okay, at the end of the day, we realize that it's going to come down to what you feel is most important. And that is a decision that only you can make. If you can afford it and you vote yes, that's your choice. If you don't feel like you can afford it and you vote no, that's also your choice. And I'm not trying to tell you how to vote one way or the other. I'm just trying to give you the facts of if you do vote yes, this is what we would be using this money for. But I understand that this is a deeply personal decision to make. I realize that it is a significant amount of money. No one is denying that fact. But again, we have the need, so we are coming to you and providing the information. If there are any questions that you have, please feel free to reach out to either one of us. We are more than happy to answer any questions. We will give tours of the elementary if you're like, what are we even talking about over here? I'm more than happy to give you a tour of the facility to go over what classrooms we have turned into smaller classrooms to try to fit everyone in. What used to be a closet is now an office. You know, all of those things that we are doing to try, that we have tried to do over the years to live in the space that we're in. But at the end of the day, we are just busting at the seams, and that's where we are. And so that's why we are coming to you, providing information and hoping that you will decide on your own for yourself, is this something you can support, or is this something that you literally cannot afford? And I respect your decision either way. I just want you to make that decision from an educated place.
Questions, comments?
Y'all have more information than just the mill information. I think that would have saved a lot of people's trouble coming here if there would have been the information about like, this is the max of the bond, but we probably won't use that. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
a lot of
legally,
misinformation that.
right, legally, we're not allowed to say that, so we
Can I
have,
say that?
now, number one is I was raised by a long line of pessimists, and so I'm gonna tell you worst case scenario every time, because I would rather surprise you with good news than to surprise you with bad news. But also legally, we have to give you the worst case scenario. And so that's why all of that is there. But on our website, if you go, up in the right-hand corner, there's a place that says Bond 2025. And it has more information, and then down at the bottom, it has 3 links that also have as much information as I could think of. And if you see something there that you're like, this doesn't answer this question, tell me, and I will work on getting that answer and getting it on that site. Because I'm trying,
Sorry.
I promise.
As far as the parents know, or parent information, all 3 of those links in PDF format were posted to the Inola PTO page today. So, I mean,
No, I'm just saying.
it's there. So if that helps one, like, that way you don't have to go search for it. It's all
I'm
there.
not coming at you mad or anything. I'm coming from other parents that I've heard from because I am, right now it's basketball season. I'm the president of the basketball league. I hear from the parents, the coaches. They're all like, did you hear about this? And I'm like, what are you know, like, and then I was like, I saw something on Facebook. So I went and looked, and they're all like, why weren't we made aware of this? That was the biggest issue that every single person came and said to me. It had nothing to do with the amount of money, it had nothing, it only matters that they did not know or made aware before it came to light on Facebook. That was it.
If we had sent mailers to everyone, would that have helped?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
100%. To the students would have been, I mean,
Well, the students,
most
there's a plan for that.
parents, I mean, we have 1,400 students, you said, so if you sent a letter to, they have parents, you know? So if you already said 1.5 students live in a home, that means that many parents would have heard about it.
Well,
So
I'm gonna be-
that's the issue that every person has came to me to say.
I'm gonna be honest, my kid never brought anything home ever.
I have one child that'll bring it home out of 3, so I get that.
I mean, we are sending it home, so be watchful for it, but, because I'm telling you,
That's the only thing I
my
know that
kid's
parents
backpack
were
is a black
upset about.
hole, and things go in and they never come back out. But we are sending it home later this week. But thank you so much for that feedback, that is information that we need, because one way or another, we're going to have to move forward on, let's get a committee to start on the planning process, or let's get a committee on where do we go from here, because it didn't pass. So, thank you so much for that.
Obviously, you're free to go. You're free to stay. Any questions? I appreciate the attention and the comments and the questions. I'm here as long as you need me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I didn't have them in the office, but they're at the banks, they're at the